Good afternoon, year 5. It's so nice to see you again. And I say good afternoon, but of course it could be morning or evening because I have no control over when you watch this. So good morning to those of you in the morning and good evening to you in the evening as well. Today we are going to be looking at this question in RE. How can a mosque respond to climate change? So far we've looked at lesson 1, the facts about climate change, the fact that it is a problem facing everyone in the world today. Lesson 2, we looked at stewardship. Please, what do you think stewardship is? Just remind me. It's the duty that Muslims have to look after the world, and it's a duty they have because they believe the world was a gift from God. Lesson 3, we looked at Islamic aid and we looked at how they are responding to climate change. What were some of the ways that they decided to respond to it? Yeah, so they were calling on the government to do more to tackle it. They were calling on their donors to write to their MPs, and also they're providing what's called humanitarian aid to places that are hit by disasters that are made worse by climate change. Today though, we've gone from a big Muslim charity, we're looking at an individual mosque today. And this is the mosque that we're looking at. It is actually really close to where I'm living at the moment. I'm living in a little village just near Cambridge during this lockdown, and this is in the centre of Cambridge, which is about 20 miles away from me. It's a beautiful place. So I went on a visit here just after it opened, and some of the photos that we're going to look at are my photos from that visit. It was built in 2018. So how many years ago was that? 2 years ago. So it's built 2 years ago, very modern. By the Muslim community in Cambridge, and it's one of the first mosques to be built with stewardship of the environment as a priority. It has lots of environmentally friendly features that we're going to look at. So this is the front entrance to the mosque. If you were taking this photo, the road would be behind you and you'd be just about to step into the mosque, and we're going to go for a virtual tour of the mosque and look at some of the features. Now, today's task in your booklet is you can't really see that very well because of the sun, but you've got 4 boxes, and for each of those boxes, in the big section you're going to draw a picture, and in the smaller section you're going to write a description of 4 different ways that this mosque tackles climate change or is environmentally friendly. Okay, so the first thing you notice when you walk into the mosque is how much sunlight there is and how that's used to create light. It means the mosque does not use very much electricity. Can you see where the sunlight is coming from in this photo? So it's not just one place, have a look. Yeah, so up here at the top, we've got what are called skylights, and that lets the sun in from up here. But also, obviously, they've used a massive glass window to let the sunlight in from the front of the building. And that means that even if there's not a lot of sun outside, if it's right in the middle of the day or getting dark, then the sunlight is still coming in here from the top. It's a very, very light and airy building. It's really lovely. So here you can see the sun is coming in through the roof, and this is in the main prayer hall. So the purpose of the mosque is to provide somewhere for Muslims to meet, and that's to pray, to get together, to have meetings and to study, also to eat. There's a little cafe in there. And for education as well. They do school trips to this mosque. And you can see here how, I don't know, we wouldn't have looked at it, but with the work that I'm doing at the moment with year 3, we're looking at how Muslims use repeating patterns a lot in their buildings. And you can see here how the roof structure makes all of these repeating patterns. It's really lovely. Okay, this is the roof, and this is a very common sight on a mosque. Do you know what this is called, this big gold thing? This is called a dome. And lots of mosques have domes, and here we can see solar panels. So the roof of the mosque is covered in solar panels, and I wonder if you can tell me how solar panels make electricity. Yeah, so they collect the heat from the sun and then they transform that into electricity. So it's all about using the sun's power, and of course the sun won't run out. So it's called renewable energy. It gets used again and again and again. Unlike coal, you can burn that, and once it's burnt, it's gone. But with the sun, that goes on forever. So that's why that's eco-friendly. And this is a really interesting area. This is the area of the mosque that they use to perform something called wudu. W-U-D-U, wudu. Wudu is where, before they go into the mosque, they have to clean themselves to be prepared for prayer. So the first thing you do is you take off your shoes and you put them in a rack, and you take off your then you would go into this room here. So you take off your shoes, you go into this room, and you'd sit down on one of these benches that they have. And you can see these taps. Yes, they wash their hands under the taps, and they wash their wrists, and they wash their forearms as well, but they also wash their feet. So they have this whole process that they go through of getting themselves ready to be clean and prepared for prayer, called wudu. And so the first thing to notice is that these taps turn off like that automatically. Sometimes you press a tap, it goes on forever, it wastes a lot of water. But these taps, they use all of that water, and as soon as you're done washing, as soon as you move away, it's off, it's turned off. And the second thing they do, and this is really clever, is that water is probably not really dirty. I mean, once you've kind of washed your hands and your feet, you haven't been like walking around in mud in just your bare feet, so you're probably all right. And instead of that water going out into the drain, they collect it and then they use it to flush the toilet, because no one's going to be drinking the water from the toilet. So they take the water from the drain, they take it back up into the toilets, and they use that to flush the toilets, and that's called grey water. And that's really clever, because you're recycling that water that otherwise would have just been ordinary clean water from the taps. Okay, and here is the garden. So all mosques, well, nearly all mosques have a garden, usually with a water feature in it. And that's because usually mosques used to be in very hot countries, and the garden would have been a place of shade, and the water would have been used for drinking or cleaning. It's a really nice feature of a lot of mosques, and this mosque is no exception. But instead of planting lots of exciting tropical plants, they planted British plants that don't need a lot of watering. They don't need a lot of care and attention. They're very they don't use a lot of water. And the fountain here, it's not spraying water up into the air either. It's not wasting water. It's just trickling down the sides here, and it'll be collected, and then it goes up again. So it's recycling the water again. Yeah, so those are some ways. Here's the final way that we're going to look at. And don't forget, you can be choosing as we go along your 4 ways that you're going to fill into your sheet that you can't really see because of the sun again. And you can rewind this video and copy some of the pictures from the screen and write your own description. But this is all about the wood. So each of these wooden beams comes from a sustainable forest. And that means that when they cut down a tree, they plant another tree in its place to replace those that have been cut down. So even the wood that they've used to build it is really sustainable and good for the environment. Okay, so that is Cambridge Central Mosque. They are reducing the amount of water they use, reducing the amount of electricity, getting their wood from sustainable forests, getting their using solar panels to generate their own electricity. Those are some of the ways. So I look forward to seeing what you're going to do on your worksheet. Hope you have a wonderful week and a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.